Valorant just posted a massive dev blog to kick off 2025, and in that they cover a bunch of different things that we can expect to be coming over the course of the next few months. Now that video is almost 20 minutes long, and I recommend you go check it out for yourself if you want to know everything. In this video, I just wanted to highlight some of the key points and things that I thought worth talking about a little bit more. I'll be attempting to do that in chronological order, but a lot of these things don't have a specific release date, so that might be a bit difficult. But the first thing you will have already noticed is that Valorant aren't doing episodes anymore. They're instead replacing them with seasons, and one season will last exactly 1 year. Within a year, we'll be getting 6 acts as well. So previously you would have, like episode 9 up to act 3. Now this year, instead of episode 10, it's just season 2025, and we will go up to act 6 by the end of the year. This shouldn't change much in the sense that acts will remain the same amount of time. All this means is that's just a little bit easier to understand essentially. We'll still have battle passes, act resets, new agent releases, stuff like that coinciding with the acts. So overall, pretty nice change there. Now one thing they mentioned for ranked specifically is to do with RR Rollback whenever you encounter cheaters. And there have actually been a growing problem recently, I guess, as the dev team responsible for the anti-cheat was on holidays. Cheaters have become actually rampant in ranked. And sometime this act, so that's within the next 2 months, we can expect RR Rollback to be added to the game. So what this means is that if you lose a game due to a cheater on the other team and they get banned, let's say in the days following that game, you will actually get your RR back that you lost. That's nothing but good news there. Obviously we'd prefer to not have cheaters in general, but at the very least this way, when they do get punished, you get your RR back. While we're on the topic of ranked, they're adding a new ranked shield as well, which will just make it harder to demote. Now there's already a system in the game that prevents you from dropping if you hit 0 RR. Let's say for example you're gold 1, 10 RR and lose a game, you won't drop straight to silver 3, instead you'll go down to 0 RR. From how I understand and the way they explained it, it's just going to be almost the exact same, but there will now be multiple games instead of just one. So let's say you go down from 10 to 0 RR, then you'll have at least one more game where if you lose, you'll stay on 0. So you won't derank major ranks, so you won't go down from gold 1 to silver 3, but if you're on gold 2, you would drop down to gold 1. Hopefully that one makes sense. It's essentially just an additional buffer on top of the current 0 RR thing. They briefly talked about cosmetics, and one of the things that we can expect soon is a new knife for specifically VCT. They alluded to it being similar to the VCT lock-in knife, not necessarily in design, but more just the capsule sort of thing where they just release a bundle, just a knife celebrating VCT, and that knife originally did pretty well, so I'm excited to see that one. And that brings us to upcoming agent changes. Now we have no real timeline for these. I want to say ISO will be up first, and you'll see what I mean by that shortly. But I think the general window they were aiming for was 6 months, so we could even see some of the later agents be changing really far down the line, but we will have to wait and see. Anyway though, with ISO, they mentioned him first and also said they're looking at just redistributing his power in general. And I think their problem with ISO is that he has this really cool shield. That's so much of what he does. This shield is just massively strong for him, and then his undercut and his wall are pretty meh, and they don't want that to be the case. They're going to make his shield a little bit weaker, but make his wall and undercut stronger to compensate. The devs did also mention Neon again, so she might be on the radar for some changes, but they didn't really allude to what specifically. They just said that we're keeping a very close eye on her after the patch 9.11 changes. Then they also mentioned Deadlock will be getting some buffs at some point in the near future. What they're specifically targeting with her is going to be changes involving her sonic sensor and allowing you to use them a little bit more aggressively. That sounds exciting to me. Maybe they'll increase the range you can place them from. And again, I still think Deadlock is in a perfectly fine spot right now, so buffs for her will be interesting. That then brings us to Harbor, who is in desperate need of some help and has been that way for a while now. And it seems like they're really taking the time to get these changes right, similar to what they did with Phoenix and Yoru, where they waited quite a while to implement the right changes for them. They said they want to make him more satisfying to play in general, more enjoyable, more fun, that sort of thing. Just make it so that people actually pick him in your ranked games ever. And in case you missed it, the map pool will be updated more frequently from now on. Every act, so that's every 2 months, we will be receiving some sort of change to the map pool. Now finally we got confirmation that there will be 2 new agents releasing sometime this year. Obviously we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. They're literally just released and we're looking that far ahead. We can actually get a rough idea of the release windows as well. We know they like to make it roughly 4 or 5 months between releases, and now that the acts are going to perfectly line up, we can look at probably around May or so for our second new agent, and then the third one will probably be sometime around October, as that's when Champions is on. Now if you look in the splash art when you load up Valorant after the new act releases, you'll actually see this silhouette in the top left, which is more than likely going to be whatever this agent we're getting in May is. There's also this player card in the battle pass called Prismatic Pathways. In the dev video, he made a sort of joke or alluding to the fact that they'll introduce new colorful ways to play. In terms of their role, it is most likely they'll be a duelist, but that is just because ISO released the longest ago. There is nothing stopping this guy from also being, a controller or a sentinel. Probably not an initiator, but we will have to wait and see. There are also some crystal things going on in the kickoff trailer, probably relating to our new agent, so I might make a separate video on that if that's something you guys are interested. Otherwise, that was just a recap on the devlog. Pretty sure I covered all the important stuff, and again, go watch that 20-minute long video from Valorant if you want all the details.